Advance and be recognized, one and all, and welcome to the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations space for all things military and historical wargaming. I'm your host today, Oriskany Jim, and today we're taking a look at some hypothetical what-if wargaming using 7 Days to the River Rhine by Great Escape Games. The situation on our game table is a bit of a nightmare scenario, imagining the kinds of battles that could unfold if current conflicts in progress expand into other parts of Eastern Europe, in our case specifically, Lithuania. Of course, this war is completely fictional. We certainly hope it remains so. Based on what we see on the ground, I'm pretty comfortable in saying it's going to remain so. But what we're imagining is Russian forces pushing across that southern slice of Lithuania. Their objective is to reach that Kaliningrad Enclave that they have there along the Baltic Coast. Their advance is being spearheaded by several of their Guards tank brigades. The problem is there are some big rivers that they have to cross through Lithuania in order to reach their objective. This is where the VDV comes in, or the Russian Guards Air Assault Units. These are the guys that we saw try to land into Ukraine on the first day of the war back in February 2022. And obviously it didn't go too well, because you're not really supposed to send helicopter transport birds into enemy airspace without first securing said airspace. By hook or by crook, our fictional scenario assumes that when the Russians expand this war into Lithuania, this time they sort of get it right, and the VDV actually manages to penetrate enemy airspace and reach their objective. These objectives include key bridge crossings over these rivers I was mentioning. It's almost like a Russian version of a bridge too far. You send in your air mobile troops, they seize those key bridges, and now it's time to dig in and wait for the tanks. So far in our fictitious scenario, the Russian Guards Air Assault Units have taken their bridges and destroyed the Lithuanian resistance facing them. That's all well and good, but the Russians face some problems now, and I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. Lithuania is a full member state of NATO, and Article 5 of the NATO Charter has been triggered. NATO forces are responding to this latest Russian aggression, and Bundeswehr Mech Brigades are among the responding units. So our board features a broad river, crossed by not one, but two bridges. Both are held by the VDV air assault troops. They are being approached by two opposing formations of tank and mechanized units. The Germans are approaching from the southwest, and the Russians are approaching from the northeast. Again, it's almost like a latter-day version of a bridge too far, with air mobile troops holding that key bridge, and the ultimate decision of the battle is going to come down to who reaches those air mobile units first. Can the Russians hold out, or will the Germans drive them off this bridge? Let's go to the footage and see the situation as it unfolds. Here is the table for today's game. We are looking generally from west to east, so north is going to be off the left-hand side of your screen. It's an 8x4 table presented in 15mm. I should quickly state that this is kind of an establishing shot. There really won't be 6 Mi-24 Hind gunships on the table. That literally wouldn't be fair to anybody. This bit of footage here, again, is sort of an establishing shot to set up how the Russian VDV Guards Air Assault Units got onto the bridge. In the Ukraine war, we saw the Russians use a mix of Mi-8s and Mi-17 helicopters, and they didn't do very well, clearly. So for narrative purposes, what we're seeing here is that the Russians have kind of learned their lesson, and when they're trying to insert some of their most elite light infantry into very, very high impact strategic targets, they're going to send them in with a little bit more protection. I should also say that I pretty much build all my own terrain here. In fact, the only thing on this table not completely scratch built are my pine trees. Those are all Christmas trees that are chopped up a little bit and repainted so they look a little bit more realistic. But all the other terrain here is completely scratch built. My miniatures are all 15mm. They're mostly Battlefront for Team Yankee release back in 2015. But there's a whole bunch of other companies mixed in here as well. I honestly can't remember them all. And even if I did, it would take too long to list them. It's a very, very eclectic mix of manufacturers for the miniatures here on the table. So now that we have a survey of the battlefield, let's move forward with a review of our units. Of course, the Russian air assault guys are already on the bridge. You see they're supported by a BRDM-2 and also BMD airborne assault vehicles. Those burning vehicles already on the bridge, those are the remains of the Lithuanian National Guard that were trying to defend the bridge before the battle started. Moving on to the Bundeswehr, we see plenty of infantry. We've got 4 actual infantry squads here, along with a Milan anti-tank guided weapons team. They are going to be supporting and enabling these Leopard 2s. Infantry in 7 days to the River Rhine is extremely important. They're not just holding detachments or garrison troops. You need them to enhance and enable the performance of your AFVs, like these Martyr APCs here. We also have my Not a Gepard. That's obviously a kit bash. We talked about that in a stream earlier last week. I have 2 PAH anti-tank helicopters, and that's pretty much going to be our German force. It's right about 1,000 points. Moving over here to the Russians, we've got some T-80Us. We've got some slightly older T-72Bs with the Contact 5 reactive armor blocks. Plenty of motor rifles, along with an anti-tank guided missile team, BMP support, and a Shilka, because again, the Germans also have some helicopters coming in on the table. There will only be one of those 6 Hinds actually participating in the game. The other 5 Hinds, we're saying, have now flown off to fly some other air assault units to take some other bridges or some other key strategic targets elsewhere in this immediate brigade vicinity. So those are the forces that we're going to have on today's table. The Russians started off as the active player. They brought a bunch of tanks on, and now the Germans are beginning to move some of their Leopards on the table. His first Leopard just crept onto the table, immediately halted, and tried to open fire. Now, my air assault RPGs can see him, but can't reach him. My AGS-17 can reach him, but it's just going to scratch the paint. None of my actual anti-tank missiles can see him, so it's going to be up to Mark's tank. So we see the red and black poker chips. These are how we are tracking the order activations that are so important in 7 days to the River Rhine. So early in the turn, Mark moved the tank onto the table. He now spent a second activation to try to react to the Leopard coming on the table and shoot first. He failed that roll. That still cost him an order activation. That's why he had 2 red poker chips under his miniature there. And now, looking at the Leopard 2's card, we see he has to roll a 4+ to hit, make that a 5+ because the Leopard 2 was moving. Alright, so 5 is exactly what he needed to hit. No worries there. Now we're going to see if he can get through the armor. The power of his weapon is an 11. Gotta remember, the Germans choose not to use depleted uranium rounds in their tank guns. So we're going to start off with an 11. He has to roll a d10, add 11 to the result, and beat an 18 on the T-80U's frontal armor. He does not do it. So the weapon does hit, but the round does not penetrate. However, because that T-80 has been hit by an armor-penetrating round of sufficient power, there will be a morale token placed on that T-80 tank. He has been damaged. As the turn progresses, both sides are bringing a lot more tanks onto the table. Mark in particular is shoving on pretty much all of his T-80Us. I should say that Mark is commanding the Russian tank forces that are trying to reach the bridge. I'm commanding the VDV air assault troops that are actually on the bridge. And our friend Tom is playing the Bundeswehr Germans here. So Tom has brought out a second Leopard 2. You see where he's got 2 order activations already on him. He's been taking a bunch of shots and missing everything. Tom's really not being treated very well by Lady Luck, to be honest. So that second T-80U that you see behind his beleaguered compatriot there is going to go ahead and engage that second Leopard 2. There are no ranges in the game, so the T-80 starts off with a 5+ to hit, make it a 6, and he rolls a 7, so he does get a hit. Now, Russian guns hit just as hard as German guns, they're just not nearly as accurate, but when you roll well like Mark does, yeah, he's going to go ahead and score a hit. It's an 11 power, he's got to beat 18 special armor on the Leopard, and he rolls a 10. So 10 plus 11 is 21. That easily defeats the Leopard's frontal armor. One Leopard is smoked. Up on the northern end of the table, Thomas brought in another one of his Leopard 2 main battle tanks, who has unfortunately walked straight into some reaction fire from that T-72B there, who has hit. So the T-72 has the same 125mm smoothbore as the T-80, but 7 days to the River Rhine gives the T-72 a slightly reduced penetration value because less advanced ammunition. I'm not really sure on that. But long story short, take your first shot. The T-72 has a 10 penetration value. Mark rolls an 8. That's 18 total. That exactly ties the Leopard 2's frontal armor. So when you tie the target's armor, you don't destroy the target. However, you do max it out on morale tokens. Now, unfortunately for Tom, all those morale tokens are going to be negative penalties to his to hit. He needs a natural 10 on a d10, and wouldn't you know it, he rolls a 9. So definitely a heartbreaker there. Tom is now bringing on some of his mechanized infantry in the form of his martyrs there, who've driven on the table, dismounted the infantry, and now the infantry squad is going to take a second activation. Yes, he has made the required roll for that second activation, and he's opened fire on my air assault guys at the foot of that bridge. I did get a cover bonus, nevertheless he still did hit me. He failed to convert that hit into a second hit, so we have just the 1 morale token there on my air assault guys. I should mention that I have actually degraded all Russian infantry on the table. I've knocked them down 1 morale level, and I have adjusted their point cost accordingly, except for my air assault VDV guys. They have the original actual values that you see in 7 Days to the River Rhine. I think the rest of the Russian infantry are more than deserve a little bit of a downgrade based on what we're seeing in Ukraine at the moment. So I've made a slight adjustment to Russian infantry values here on our table. Alright, let's see what the Guards Air Assault can get done here. I'm going to put a second activation on my BRDM2 with my anti-tank missiles on there. I have to roll to make sure I get that second activation. I have to beat a 1 on a D6. Cool. That was pretty easy. Now I'm going to go ahead and declare my target. I'm going to put an anti-tank missile into the front of that second Leopard 2 that is not burning there. Okay, we've measured it a couple times. It is a frontal shot, which is very unfortunate for me. But I do score a hit with a 7. Alright, so that was the easy part. Activating was easy, scoring the hit was easy. Now I have to get through the frontal armor. I'm pretty much just trying to put a morale token on that Leopard 2. There's no way I'm actually going to penetrate the front of that tank with... Holy crap, look at that roll. Damn. Alright, I think I may have actually just done it. Alright, so the way this works is whenever you're firing a high explosive weapon against any kind of special armor, the Leopard does qualify. That's laminate armor, reactive armor, chom armor, anything that isn't just straight out steel armor. You have to roll your anti-tank weapon penetration twice and take the worst result. So I get to roll 2 d10s, take the worst result, and add it to 10. So with a 9 and a 10, my worst roll is going to be an adjusted 19, which, holy crap, I've actually done the math a couple times. Long story short, take your second shot. It's a 4% shot. That 2 d10s are going to yield a result that will beat a 19 per the rules of 7 Days to the River Rhine. Kaboom! Damn, dude, I almost feel like I have to apologize to Tom for that missile shot. But he's coming in for some payback now. His infantry team hiding in that building is going to take a light anti-tank rocket shot on one of my little EMD air assault vehicles. So pretty much all infantry in this game carries some kind of light anti-tank weapon. An RPG, a LOB, a Carl Gustav, an AT-4, an armbrust, who knows what. So he's got to roll a 5 plus to hit because he wasn't moving. Also, I don't think infantry pay for moving. So okay, with a 10, he does score a hit. Awesome. That is going to be a side hit on my armor, which is it's a 9, and he gets to roll a d10 and add 8 to the result. So pretty much don't roll a 1. There's the side armor on my BMD1. Alright, so he rolled a 5. That's going to be a penetrating hit. So that BMD air assault vehicle is now smoked. He has to roll a d6 to see if it explodes. That's going to be a 4 plus for a Russian vehicle. A 1, it does not explode. We have to check if it actually explodes because I do have friendly infantry within 4 inches, and that would negatively affect that infantry. My air assault guards didn't take too kindly to that. We had some vodka stored in that BMD, damn it, and yeah, now they're a little pissed off. So I went ahead and activated them. I had to beat a 1 to get past that white morale token there. That indicates that that squad has taken previous infantry fire from that Bundeswehr rifle team hiding out in that building you can't quite see off the bottom of the screen. So I beat that roll, and then I took an RPG shot, accounting for the morale token and accounting for some of this partial cover as it sort of snakes through those trees here to hit that martyr. So I wound up rolling a 6. Now here's where it gets close. Right, the base to hit is a 5+, okay? And there's some cover there, so it goes to a 6+. That equals a hit, right? No, it doesn't, because of that white morale token. They were partially suppressed by these German rifles earlier in the turn, hence that white morale token there. So it's 5 plus 1 for the cover, plus 1 for the morale token, makes it a 7 to hit. And you can see clearly I rolled a 6. So this is a great example of how 7 Days to the River Rhine really takes into account infantry and armor cooperation on the battlefield. If that rifle team had not been there supporting that vehicle, that white morale token would not be there, and that 6 would have been a hit. If it hadn't been for the infantry support, that martyr, trust me, he's on fire right now. Me oh my, would you look at the time? What's that noise? It's time to cue the Red Dawn music. Alright, so Mark is bringing in our Mi-24 Hind gunship, and he's saving his missiles. Instead, he's going to use autocannon on the front armor of that martyr that is clean to the side of that building there. Alright, so yeah, there's the target. Alright, there's no ranges in this game. He's got a clear line of sight. Obviously, he's a flying unit, and therefore he doesn't have to pay any kind of terrain penalties for shooting over those hedges or anything like that. Alright, so he's going to just open fire with his autocannon. I should also note that the German Leopard self-propelled anti-aircraft vehicle is not on the table yet. So it's a 5+ to hit, helicopters don't have to pay for moving, and it's an autocannon, which means Mark gets to roll twice and use the best result. So he winds up with, I think, a 2 and a 7. Alright, so that's going to be 1 hit. Awesome. And now he has to try to penetrate the armor with a 4 penetration value on his autocannon. The front armor on the martyr is a 12, so he's going to roll his penetration. He rolls a 7 plus 4 equals an 11. That does not penetrate the martyr's armor. There'll be a morale token there, but he survives. Back on the southern end of the table, this martyr APC is going to take a 3rd order activation. Because he's activated twice already this turn, he has to beat a 2 on a d6. He does it easily with a 5. And therefore, Tom declares that he's going to take some autocannon fire up at my air assault guards. Oh no! Alright, so because that martyr is armed with an autocannon, Tom gets to roll twice and pick the best result. So his first one's a miss. His second one does hit with a 7. That does hit despite my cover bonus there. So automatic, 1 morale token placed on my air assault guards. Now Tom is going to try to convert that into a second hit. He needs a 5 or a 6 on a d6 because I have partial cover, and he fails. So I'm left with just a 1 additional morale token there, which is bad enough. Because even though my air assault guards have slightly better morale than the rest of the Russian infantry on this table, those morale tokens are really starting to add up. I'm finally getting some fire support from Mark and his tanks, because as you can see there, my air assault guards are starting to be pushed back off the bridge. I'm using some fallback orders to sort of hold my position for now. So here's a T-80 battle tank that's going to fire a HE round into this building, holding some German infantry. They're on the 2nd floor of that building. They're not really perched on the roof like that. That would be kind of silly. Alright, so Mark has scored a hit. That's going to be automatically 1 morale token. And now using the gun AT7 and above row on the quick reference sheet, we're going to see whether or not Mark can convert that hit into additional hits. He gets 2d6 chances to do it. He gets to roll 2d6. If they're both successes, he doesn't get 2 additional morale tokens. He just gets 2 chances to roll a 4, 5, or 6, because we are considering the German infantry in cover. So he rolls the dice, he rolls very badly, the Germans catch a break, there will be no additional morale tokens assessed against them. So it looks like they're going to be left with 2 order activations, those are the black ones, and 2 morale tokens, those are the white ones. So that's where we are for now. And of course there's now a little hole in that water tower, leaking water where the T-80 shell passed through there. But hey, what are you going to do? Here on the southern shoulder of the battlefield, we see one hell of a tank duel in progress. The Russians are the active player, so Mark is moving forward with that T-80U, and he's going for a flank shot on this Leopard 2. Yes, that is a flank shot per the rules of 7 Days to the River Rhine. The Leopard 2 gets a chance to react, Unfortunately, Tom rolls a 1 on his reaction check. Tom really is getting the short end of the stick here when it comes to reaction rolls. So the T-80 is going to get his shot. Mark rolls, he scores a hit, but he only gets a 2 on his penetration, which means that even against the flank armor of the Leopard 2, it's not going to get it done. The Leopard 2 does get an additional morale token. Those Leopards, man, those things are just armored to hell and gone. So with that resolved, Mark is now going to go ahead and announce that he's going to play a second order activation on that T-80. Because that T-80 has activated once already this turn, Mark has to beat a 1 on a D6. He did that, so that T-80 will get his shot. However, this is a new activation, which means Tom gets a chance to react as well. And this time he made it with a 6. So not only did the German tank crew see that Rusky bastard this time, he has stolen initiative from the Russian player. So now he needs a 4+ to hit, thermal sights, so all that crap in the way doesn't matter. He's going to be a 4+ because neither tank is moving for this activation. And boom, that's going to be a hit. That's a saber round on the front of a T-80. So the Leopard's penetration value is 11. He's going to add a D10 result to that, and he's looking to beat an 18. 8 plus 11 equals 19. That does get it done. That is going to destroy that T-80 battle tank. Good shooting, Leopard. Now, we have to roll to see if it explodes or not. A Warsaw Pact designed battle tank does explode on a 4+ on a D6. NATO tanks explode on a 5+. There's a difference in how those different nations design their tanks and how they store ammunition. Russian tanks are inherently more dangerous. And we do need to know whether or not the tank actually explodes or not, because there is friendly infantry within 4 inches of that destroyed T-80. So there's also going to be a morale token on that anti-tank team as well. Wow. Okay, guys, as you can clearly tell, this battle didn't waste any damn time in getting nasty and violent in one hell of a hurry. So far, my air assault troops are doing okay. They're holding at the foot of the bridge against Tom's Bundeswehr infantry. They're starting to pile it on, though, and they're getting closer and closer. Tom's making some really good use of some cover and concealment, and also his superior numbers in that little part of the battlefield. You don't often see these nasty little infantry firefights in 7 Days to the River Rhine. At least I haven't so far. But I tell you what, I've sure seen one now. To be fair, I've also gotten some absurdly lucky rolls. I still can't believe that first AT-5 went right through the glacis of that Leopard 2. That's pretty significant because there's only 6 Leopard 2s in the German force. Mark's knocked out some Leopard 2s by this point. So they're tough to knock out, but once they start to go down, German fortunes tend to turn south pretty quickly. At the same time, Tom is getting used to the rules and he's found the range, and a lot of Soviet armor is also beginning to burn as well. And again, my air assault guys, they're doing their job for the moment, but it's piling on. Not only is he knocking out units, but a little bit more subtly, he is stacking more and more of those white morale tokens on my guys. I'm going to have to start using some fallback orders and falling back onto the bridge itself. The dilemma is, once I start to fall back on that bridge, I get myself into a little bit of a crossfire, as we'll see in part 2. Also, there's no cover on the bridge. When you're on the foot of the bridge, there's bushes, trees, buildings that you can use. But once you're back onto the bridge, it's just a whole lot of metal and open space. And yeah, you're in a little bit of trouble at that point. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this game is nowhere close to being over. Please stay tuned next week when we come back for part 2 of this episode. For now, that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please remember to hit that notification bell and consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There is an auto-accept invite link in the description of this video. Come by, show us what you're up to on the table, and see what everybody else is up to in the community. But for now, this is Risking Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. Signing off, we are rounds complete for another episode. And as always, Tango Mike for watching.